The Titanus had been a dream for years, a symbol of human ingenuity and strength. It was Earth's first warship, a vessel unlike any other in the galaxy. Built in secret, its purpose was clear: to ensure humanity's survival in an unknown universe. The world watched as the Titanus slowly rose from the ground, leaving Earth's atmosphere behind as it ventured into space for the first time. Commander David Rhodes stood at the helm of the ship, staring out through the viewports. His eyes glistened with a mixture of pride and worry. The Titanus was a marvel of human technology, capable of incredible feats. But it wasn't just a ship, it was Earth's first step into the stars. Its weapons were designed for peace, but peace was often a fragile thing in space. The ship was massive, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The sleek hull gleamed under the light of distant stars, and its engines hummed with power. Inside, the crew moved about in quiet anticipation, knowing that they were embarking on something that would change their lives forever. They had trained for this moment for years, but the reality was different. There was a sense of fear mixed with excitement, the unknown ahead of them. As the Titanus broke through the final layers of Earth's atmosphere and into the vastness of space, the crew could hardly believe it. They were leaving home. The mission was supposed to be simple: explore space, make contact with other civilizations, and bring back knowledge. But Rhodes knew the truth. Nothing was simple when it came to space. A soft chime echoed through the command center, drawing Rhodes' attention. A message from Earth, from the United Earth government. They were excited, nervous, hopeful. The whole planet was watching. "Commander Rhodes," the message began, "may your journey bring humanity closer to the stars. Be cautious, but do not fear. You are not alone out there." Rhodes sighed as he listened to the words, knowing that humanity had placed all its hope on this ship and its crew. They were the face of Earth's future, a future that depended on peaceful interaction with the unknown. But deep down, Rhodes couldn't shake the feeling that something was out there, something waiting for them. The unknown had always been a source of fear, and space was no different. He had heard the stories of galactic wars, powerful empires, and ancient forces that had shaped the galaxy. What if Earth wasn't ready for what was out there? The crew remained silent, all of them lost in their thoughts as the Titanus continued its journey into the deep, dark expanse of space. Ahead of them lay the galaxy, a vast and mysterious place full of wonders and dangers alike. For now, they were safe, but Commander Rhodes knew the universe had a way of changing that. What lay ahead would determine not just the fate of Titanus, but the future of humanity in the galaxy. And he had no idea what was coming. The journey had only just begun, and already everything felt different. The Titanus sailed smoothly through space, leaving Earth behind as it ventured deeper into the unknown. Commander David Rhodes watched from the command center as the stars stretched out before them, like a vast sea of light. The ship's engines hummed steadily, and for a moment, the crew allowed themselves to relax. They had left their home, but they were not alone. The stars were their guide now, and the galaxy awaited them. However, the calm didn't last long. A signal flashed across the ship's communication screen, drawing everyone's attention. It was a message from an alien race, the Arcan Dominion. The crew had been warned that they might meet new civilizations, but nothing had prepared them for this. "Commander Rhodes," the message began, "this is Captain Arcan of the Dominion fleet. You are trespassing in our space. Leave immediately or face the consequences." The message was short, but the tone was clear, hostile, and direct. The crew exchanged nervous glances. The Arcan Dominion was known across the galaxy as one of the most powerful factions. They were feared for their military strength and their strict rule over the stars. Rhodes knew that a confrontation with them could be disastrous. Earth wasn't ready for a war. "What should we do, Commander?" asked Lieutenant Vera, her voice steady but filled with uncertainty. Rhodes took a deep breath, weighing the decision. He couldn't ignore the threat, but he also didn't want to escalate the situation. "Open a channel to their fleet," he ordered. "We'll try to talk first." The comms officer, Ensign Martinez, quickly complied. The screen flickered as the image of Captain Arkin appeared on the main view. He was tall, his features sharp, his eyes cold and calculating. "This is Captain Arkin of the Arkin Dominion," he said without greeting. "You are in violation of our borders. State your intentions." Rhodes didn't hesitate. "Captain Arkin, I am Commander David Rhodes of the Titanus, a vessel from Earth. We come in peace, seeking only to explore and learn from the galaxy. We do not seek conflict." The tension in the air was thick. The crew of the Titanus waited anxiously as the captain of the Dominion stared at them, his expression unreadable. "I do not believe you," Captain Arkin said after a long pause. "Humans are known for their aggression. Leave now, or you will be dealt with accordingly." The words hung in the air, and Rhodes could feel the weight of them. The Titanus wasn't built for war, but its weapons were powerful, capable of overwhelming any fleet in its path. He knew that firing first would be a disaster, but standing down could also be seen as weakness. "We will not leave," Rhodes finally said, his voice firm. "But we don't want war. We only want to understand." Captain Arkin's eyes narrowed. "You are bold, human. I will give you one chance. Surrender your vessel and submit to our laws. If you refuse, your fate will be sealed." The Titanus crew braced themselves for what might come next. This was not what they had expected. They had come to make peaceful contact, not to face an ultimatum from the galaxy's most powerful empire. As the tension grew, Rhodes looked at the screen, determined to stand his ground. The first steps had been taken. The galaxy would soon learn what humanity was made of. But would it be enough to prevent war? The answer was uncertain, and the stakes had never been higher. The Titanus drifted through space, the weight of its mission heavier than ever. Commander David Rhodes sat alone in his quarters, staring at the vast expanse outside the window. The stars seemed so distant, and the silence in the ship only reminded him of the tension they had just faced. The Arkin Dominion had issued their threat, and it hung over them like a storm cloud. Rhodes knew this was more than just a battle of ships. It was a battle for Earth's place in the galaxy, and no matter how much he wished for peace, the truth was becoming clear. Humanity might not be welcome here. A soft beep interrupted his thoughts. It was a message from Lieutenant Vera. "Commander, we've received some unsettling news." Her voice crackled through the comm system. "The Arkin Dominion has called for reinforcements. The rest of the fleet is on its way." Rhodes leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. "How much time do we have?" he asked, his voice calm despite the rising pressure. "Not much. A few hours at most. They'll be here soon." He paused, thinking carefully. The Titanus was built for exploration, not war. But the crew had trained for every scenario, and they couldn't turn back now. They had to stand their ground. "We've come too far to retreat," Rhodes said quietly. "Prepare the crew. We're going to make sure the galaxy knows who we are." In the command center, the atmosphere was tense but focused. Lieutenant Vera and Ensign Martinez worked at their stations, relaying information to the rest of the crew. The ship's weapon systems were powered up, but there was no sign of aggression. The Titanus was not yet locked in combat. Instead, they prepared to show the galaxy that humanity was not afraid to defend itself if necessary, but they would not initiate the conflict. The crew wasn't made up of warriors. They were scientists, engineers, and explorers, people who had spent their lives working to better understand the universe. Yet here they were, facing the greatest challenge humanity had ever known. They had trained for combat, but none of them could have predicted that they would be the ones to make first contact with such a powerful force. Lieutenant Vera turned to Rhodes with a serious look. "Commander, do you really think this will work? Do you believe the galaxy will accept us?" Rhodes met her gaze. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I do know one thing. Humanity has always fought for what's right. We fight for our survival, for our freedom, for our future. We've never backed down from a challenge before, and we're not about to start now. The crew, though nervous, found strength in his words. They knew they were not just fighting for their lives, but for the future of Earth, and for every human who would follow in their footsteps across the stars. As the Arkan fleet drew closer, the tension was palpable. The Titanus was surrounded by the unknown, but the crew had one thing they could rely on: their resilience. It was the core of humanity's spirit, and now, more than ever, it was going to be tested. "Stay calm, stay focused," Rhodes ordered as the first shadow of the enemy ships appeared on the horizon. "We'll face this together." With that, the crew of the Titanus braced for the next chapter of their journey, knowing that whatever happened, they would not go down without a fight. The galaxy would soon know that humanity was not to be underestimated. The Arkan Dominion fleet loomed in the distance, a sea of powerful ships heading toward the Titanus. The crew of Earth's warship sat tensely in their stations, their eyes focused on the approaching threat. Commander David Rhodes stood at the helm, his hands gripping the controls tightly as he stared out at the enemy. He had no intention of starting a war, but the reality of the situation was becoming more and more difficult to ignore. The Arkan ships were many, and the Titanus was one. "Commander, we're receiving their final warning," Lieutenant Vera said, her voice steady, but her eyes filled with concern. "They've given us one last chance to surrender." Rhodes glanced at the screen. A message from Captain Arkan flashed on the comms. The alien's voice came through, cold and demanding. "You have 1 hour to retreat or face the consequences. Do not test our patience." Rhodes looked away from the screen, his expression grim. He knew this wasn't going to end peacefully. Titanus had advanced technology, but it wasn't designed for war. They weren't soldiers. They were explorers. But if they had to fight, Rhodes would make sure humanity would not be wiped out without a fight. "Commander," Ensign Martinez called out, "I think you should see this." Rhodes turned to the officer, who was staring at a screen filled with strange readings. The ship's sensors had picked up an unexpected energy surge coming from deep within the Titanus. It wasn't a normal system malfunction. This was something else. "What's going on?" Rhodes asked, stepping closer. Martinez looked confused. "I don't know, sir. The energy source seems ancient. It's coming from the lower levels near the core." Rhodes felt a chill run down his spine. The Titanus had been built with advanced technology, yes, but there were also systems within the ship that were older than anything the crew had ever seen. No one knew where they came from. It was almost as if they had been added in secrecy, buried deep within the ship, hidden from view. Without wasting another second, Rhodes ordered a team to investigate. "Lieutenant Vera, gather a team and check it out. I want to know what's going on down there." Vera nodded and quickly assembled a small crew. They descended to the lower levels of the Titanus, their footsteps echoing in the dark hallways. As they approached the source of the energy surge, the temperature seemed to drop. The walls were covered in strange markings, symbols no one had ever seen before. The air was thick with tension, as if something ancient had awoken. At the heart of the area, they found it. An enormous, dormant device, partially covered by layers of dust and forgotten metal. The energy was radiating from it, and it hummed with a deep, almost sentient power. This was no ordinary weapon. It was something much older, far beyond anything humanity had built. "What is this?" Vera whispered, running her hand along the smooth surface of the device. "We don't know," Rhodes answered, standing in the doorway, his voice filled with awe. "But it looks like it's waking up." As if in response to his words, the device suddenly sprang to life. Lights blinked on, and the hum turned into a low, resonating roar. Energy coursed through the ship, making the walls shake. The Titanus systems powered up in response, and for the first time, the crew saw just how powerful this ship could be. "This is beyond anything we've ever seen," Vera said, her voice trembling. The ship wasn't just a warship, it was a weapon of destruction, and Earth had unknowingly unlocked its full potential. "Commander," Vera said, looking back at him. "This could be the answer we need, or it could be our doom." Rhodes stood in silence for a moment, staring at the device. He knew that humanity had just stumbled onto something huge. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would Earth. Whatever this weapon was, it was now in their hands, and they would have to decide how to use it. The crew of the Titanus had just uncovered a secret buried deep within their ship, an ancient weapon of unimaginable power. The device that had awakened in the lower levels was now fully operational, its hum resonating throughout the entire warship. Commander David Rhodes stood at the command center, his thoughts racing. The weapon was a mystery, far more advanced than anything humanity had created. But one thing was certain: it could change everything. "Commander," Lieutenant Vera said, her voice tinged with concern, "we've received another message from the Arkan Dominion. They've called in reinforcements. They're ready for battle." Rhodes clenched his fists. The Arkan Dominion was not backing down. And now, they were not alone. The galaxy, already wary of humanity's power, was beginning to rally together against Earth. Reports were coming in from several galactic factions, all preparing for an all-out conflict. "They're not just coming for the Titanus anymore," Vera continued. "They're coming for Earth." Rhodes' mind raced. Earth was vulnerable. The Titanus was powerful, but it couldn't fight an entire galaxy. The ancient weapon inside the ship could turn the tide, but using it could mean triggering a galaxy-wide war. He had to think carefully. "We need to make contact with the Zenari," Rhodes said. The Zenari were an ancient and peaceful race that had remained neutral in galactic conflicts for centuries. They might be our only chance to avoid full-scale war. A tense silence filled the command center as the crew worked quickly. Communications were sent to the Zenari, hoping for a peaceful solution. Meanwhile, the Arkan Dominion continued to advance. It wasn't just about Earth anymore. The entire galaxy had taken notice of humanity's arrival, and they were scared. Humans had come from a distant corner of space, carrying a ship that could obliterate entire fleets with ease. It was clear the galaxy didn't know whether to welcome Earth or fear it. In the midst of the mounting tension, the Zenari responded. Their message came through with a calm and measured tone. "Commander Rhodes," the Zenari envoy began, "we have watched your progress from afar. Your power is undeniable, but we cannot allow you to threaten the peace of the galaxy. The Arkan Dominion is preparing for war, and we have no choice but to defend ourselves." Rhodes' heart sank. The Zenari, normally advocates for peace, were now preparing for a confrontation. The Titanus was now at the center of a galaxy-wide conflict. "We don't want war," Rhodes responded, his voice firm but desperate. "But we can't back down. We came to explore and learn, not to conquer. We will defend ourselves if we have to, but I am asking for your help. We need to stop this from escalating." The Zenari envoy's voice softened. "We understand your intentions, Commander. However, you must realize that the balance of the galaxy has been maintained for centuries. Your arrival is a disruption, and that disruption cannot go unanswered." As the message ended, the reality of the situation hit Rhodes harder than ever. The galaxy had united against Earth, and now Earth had to make a choice. Would they fight for survival, or would they find another way to prove humanity's worth in the galaxy? In the distance, the Arkan fleet was drawing closer. The Titanus had its weapon, but Rhodes knew that using it could mean the end of everything they had hoped for. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, rested in his hands. The decision was made. It was time to prepare for war, but maybe, just maybe, there was still hope for. The Titanus sailed through the cold void of space, its path uncertain. Commander David Rhodes stood in the command center, his eyes fixed on the display screen. The Arkan Dominion fleet was closing in fast, and the once peaceful mission of exploration now seemed like a distant dream. Rhodes had never wanted war, but with the galaxy uniting against humanity, the choice was becoming clearer every moment. "Commander," Lieutenant Vera's voice cut through his thoughts, "we've received word from the Zenari. They're sending a diplomatic envoy to speak with the Arkan Dominion. They want to mediate. Rhodes turned, a flicker of hope crossing his face. A diplomatic envoy. That's good. If the Zanari can get through to the Arkan, maybe we still have a chance at peace. Vera nodded but didn't look convinced. The Zanari are peaceful, but the Arkan are not known for their patience. And we've shown them that humanity is not to be underestimated. Rhodes rubbed his forehead, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. Earth had never faced anything like this. They had come to space to learn, to grow, to be a part of something greater than themselves. But instead, they had become a symbol of fear. We don't have much time, Rhodes said, taking a deep breath. Prepare the crew for whatever comes next. We may not be able to avoid conflict, but we need to make it clear that we're not the enemy. As the minutes ticked by, tension built within the Titanus. The crew remained focused, each member knowing the gravity of the situation. The Titanus was humanity's greatest achievement, but it was also humanity's greatest burden. With its advanced weapons and unmatched power, it had quickly become a symbol of both hope and terror. Rhodes glanced over at Ensign Martinez, who was monitoring the galactic communications. "Any updates?" he asked. "Nothing yet," Martinez replied. "But we're getting interference. The Arkan fleet is jamming our signals." That was expected. The Arkan wouldn't make this easy. They had been clear from the beginning. Humanity was a threat. But Rhodes wasn't ready to give up on diplomacy. He still believed that there was more to humanity than just weapons and war. The crew of the Titanus had always prided themselves on their curiosity, their ability to adapt, and their creativity. Those were the qualities that made humans different from the other species in the galaxy. "Send out a message to all galactic factions," Rhodes ordered. "Let them know that we are not here to fight. We are here to learn, to connect, and to prove that we belong in this galaxy." The crew worked quickly, broadcasting the message across all channels. "We are not invaders," the message said. "We are explorers. We seek knowledge, not conquest. We wish to learn from the galaxy, not destroy it." As the message went out, Rhodes could only hope that it would reach the right ears. The Arkan Dominion would not be easily swayed. But perhaps if the galaxy saw humanity for what it truly was, curious, determined, and resilient, there was still hope for peace. Hours passed, and the Arkan fleet grew closer. The Titanus stood alone in space, its enormous size and powerful weapons ready for anything. But Rhodes held on to a single hope, that humanity's true potential lay not in destruction, but in the ability to adapt, to change, and to create bonds with others. It was the only hope left, and as the Titanus faced the gathering storm of war, Rhodes clung to it like a lifeline. The battle ahead would not be just one of strength, but of will, of belief in what humanity could become in the vast, untamed galaxy. The tension aboard the Titanus had reached a breaking point. Commander David Rhodes stood at the bridge, watching as the stars stretched out before them. The Arkan fleet was closing in, their dark ships looming ever closer. The decision had been made. This was no longer about avoiding conflict. It was about survival. The Titanus wasn't built for war, but it was built to protect humanity. And now, Earth's first warship was about to face its greatest test. "Commander, the Arkan fleet has entered range," Lieutenant Vera said, her voice calm but tinged with urgency. "They're locking on to our position." Rhodes nodded, his expression grim. The situation was now clear. There was no negotiating, no more diplomacy. The galaxy had united against them, and humanity's warship was caught in the center of it all. "Prepare for battle," Rhodes ordered. "All hands to stations." The crew moved swiftly, their training kicking in. The Titanus's massive weapons systems powered up, but the ship wasn't ready for a fight. It was a ship of exploration, of peace, but peace had been shattered the moment humanity had arrived in the galaxy. The Arkan Dominion, and now the other factions, had shown that they viewed Earth as a threat, and they were determined to end it before it could grow any stronger. "We've got incoming," Ensign Martinez shouted. The display showed the Arkan ships closing in, their weapons charged and ready. The time for diplomacy had passed. "Target the lead ships," Rhodes commanded. "Fire when ready." The Titanus shook as the first blast from the Arkan fleet hit its shields. The force of the blast rattled the crew, but the ship held firm. The shields held, but for how long? Rhodes knew the Titanus could take some damage, but the sheer number of enemy ships would test its limits. "Shields are holding, but we can't take another hit like that," Vera reported. "We need to make a move now." "Return fire," Rhodes ordered, his voice steady despite the rising pressure. "Take out their weapons. We can't let them strike again." The Titanus fired back, its powerful weapons lighting up the darkness of space. The first shot hit one of the Arkan ships, sending it into a fiery spin as it lost power. But the rest of the fleet didn't falter. They pressed forward, launching more strikes at the Titanus. The crew worked together, their training and experience pushing them through the chaos. Yet, despite their best efforts, the battle seemed endless. The Titanus's weapons were strong, but so were the Arkan ships. The warship's crew was holding their ground, but they were outnumbered, and it wasn't long before the situation became even more dire. "Commander," Ensign Martinez shouted again. "There's a massive energy surge coming from the enemy fleet. They're preparing something big." Rhodes' heart raced. He knew the Arkan Dominion wasn't holding back. They were going to end this fight, one way or another. "Brace for impact," he ordered, just as the massive blast from the Arkan fleet collided with the Titanus's shields. The ship shuddered violently. The crew braced themselves as the ship rocked, and sparks flew from consoles. The Titanus's shields flickered, struggling to hold as the Arkan continued their assault. The situation was becoming increasingly desperate. The crew had done everything they could, but there was only so much they could do. The Titanus was outnumbered, and the Arkan fleet wasn't about to stop. Rhodes stood firm, determination etched into his face. He knew the Titanus had one more weapon, the ancient weapon they had uncovered. The question now was whether they should use it. It could turn the tide of battle, but at what cost? The enemy was closing in. Time was running out. The fate of the Titanus and the crew rested on one choice: to fight with everything they had, or to risk it all with the ancient weapon, and hope it would be enough. The Titanus had endured for what seemed like an eternity under the relentless assault of the Arkan fleet. The ship had been battered, its once pristine surface now scared by laser fire and explosions. The shields were flickering, struggling to hold against the overwhelming firepower of the enemy. Commander David Rhodes stood at the command center, his mind racing. The situation had reached a breaking point. The crew of the Titanus had fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered, and their weapons, though powerful, were no match for the massive Arkan armada. Yet, through the chaos, Rhodes held on to one belief: humanity would never back down. "Commander, we've lost communication with Earth," Ensign Martinez reported. "They can't send reinforcements in time." Rhodes nodded. It wasn't unexpected. The galaxy's leaders had already made their decision. Earth was on its own. The Titanus had been sent as humanity's first step into the stars, and now it seemed that step might be the last. The weight of it all pressed down on Rhodes, but he refused to let the crew see his doubt. "Commander, what do we do now?" Vera's voice broke through his thoughts. The tension was palpable, but there was no panic in her voice, only resolve. Rhodes looked at her, and then at the crew. They had given everything. The Titanus was a symbol of human ambition, of resilience. No matter what happened next, they would fight until the very end. "We fight," he said, his voice steady. "We're not going to let them destroy everything we've worked for. Not now, not ever." The crew looked to him, their eyes filled with a mix of fear and determination. They didn't have the strength to win a war against a galaxy full of enemies, but they had something else: human ingenuity, creativity, and the will to survive. Activate the ancient weapon, Rhodes ordered. Lieutenant Vera hesitated for only a moment before nodding and quickly working at her station. The weapon had been a mystery since they discovered it, an ancient relic hidden deep within the ship. It had been dormant, untouched for centuries, but now it was their only hope. The room shook as the power of the ancient weapon surged through the Titanus. The weapon activated with a low hum, sending waves of energy through the ship. The screens in front of the crew flashed as the weapon's systems powered up. Rhodes could feel the power inside the ship, something ancient and unfamiliar, but it was humanity's last chance. "Commander, the weapon is ready," Vera reported. Rhodes took a deep breath. This was it. The Titanus's weapons could destroy a fleet, but this ancient weapon, it had the power to end the war. But he also knew that using it could have consequences, ones that might be irreversible. "Fire," he commanded. The weapon fired a beam of energy so intense that it lit up the space around the Titanus. It shot toward the Arkan fleet with blinding speed, and before anyone could process it, the lead ship exploded in a brilliant flash. The power of the blast sent shockwaves through the rest of the fleet. Ships began to break apart as the energy from the weapon spread through them. The Arkan fleet faltered, their ships caught in the wake of the weapon's destructive force. The Titanus stood alone against the remains of the once powerful armada, its crew watching in stunned silence as the enemy fleet began to retreat. The battle was over, but the cost of victory hung in the air. The Titanus had survived, but it wasn't without consequences. The ancient weapon had changed everything. As the crew stood in silence, Commander Rhodes knew that humanity's place in the galaxy had been forever altered. The Titanus had shown the galaxy the strength of human resolve. They weren't invincible, but they would fight for their future. They would never back down. And as they prepared to continue their journey, Rhodes knew one thing for certain. Humanity had proven its worth. They were no longer just explorers. They were a force to be reckoned with. The Titanus drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space, its engines humming softly as the crew slowly recovered from the battle. The Arkan fleet had retreated, and the galaxy was left in stunned silence. The weapon had done its job, but at what cost? The aftermath was still unclear, and the crew of the Titanus had to face the consequences of their actions. Commander David Rhodes stood on the bridge, staring out into the blackness of space. The stars seemed distant, cold, and uninviting, but at least they were still alive. Humanity had faced its first test in the galaxy, and they had passed, barely. He could feel the weight of what had happened, and he knew that nothing would ever be the same again. "Commander," Lieutenant Vera's voice broke through his thoughts. "The Arkan fleet is gone, but I'm picking up several distress signals from other galactic factions. The weapon's energy pulse has affected ships far beyond the battlefield." Rhodes sighed, rubbing his forehead. The weapon was powerful, too powerful. He had hoped it would stop the fighting, but now it seemed as though it had caused even more damage than they had anticipated. The Titanus had proven itself capable of incredible destruction, but that wasn't why humanity had come to the stars. They had come to learn, to explore, and to find their place in the galaxy. "Patch me into the galactic communication network," Rhodes ordered. The screen flickered, and soon, images of leaders from various galactic factions appeared before him. The Zanari, the Salar Confederacy, and other representatives all stared at him through the screen, their faces a mixture of awe and suspicion. The galaxy had been shaken by humanity's power, and now it was up to Rhodes to determine how they would be seen by the rest of the universe. Commander Rhodes, the Zanari representative, spoke first, his voice calm but firm. "You have proven that humanity is not to be underestimated, but you have also proven that you are a force of destruction. The galaxy is now divided on how to view Earth. Some fear you, others see potential for peace." Rhodes nodded slowly. The words were true. Humanity had shown its strength, but now they had to prove they were more than just a powerful weapon. "I understand," Rhodes said, his voice steady. "We never came here to destroy. We came to explore, to learn, and to understand. The weapon was meant to protect us, but I realize now that we cannot rely on destruction. We must show the galaxy who we truly are, who we want to be." There was a long silence as the representatives listened. Rhodes could feel the weight of their eyes on him, weighing every word. The future of Earth and the galaxy depended on what happened next. After a moment, the Zanari representative spoke again. "Humanity has much to offer. Your resilience, your creativity, and your will to survive are qualities we respect. We offer you the chance to join the Galactic Council, to be a part of something larger than yourselves. But you must prove that you can use your power wisely, that you can bring peace rather than destruction." Rhodes felt a glimmer of hope. This was what they had wanted, what they had hoped for. It wasn't going to be easy, and they would have to work hard to earn the trust of the galaxy. But it was a start. "We accept your offer," Rhodes said, his voice filled with determination. "We will prove ourselves. We will show you that humanity is not defined by the power we hold, but by what we choose to do with it." The representatives nodded, and for the first time since their arrival in the galaxy, Rhodes felt a sense of relief. The Titanus had brought humanity to the stars, and now they had a chance to truly make their mark. As the communication ended, Rhodes turned to the crew. They had faced a test unlike anything they had ever imagined, but they had survived. They had proven that humanity's resolve was unbreakable. Now, the real journey began. The Titanus was no longer just a warship. It was a symbol of humanity's potential. A symbol that, despite the challenges ahead, humanity could rise above and find a place among the stars. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: Earth had earned its place in the galaxy. The Titanus would continue its mission, but now it would be a mission of peace, of learning, and of building relationships with the galaxy's diverse civilizations. Humanity had proven its strength. Now it was time to prove its heart. The Titanus drifted through space, its engines humming quietly as the crew looked out at the stars. The battle with the Arkan fleet was over, but the war was far from finished. The galaxy had watched humanity's arrival with fear and wonder, and now they were watching again, waiting to see what humanity would do next. The tension was still thick, but there was a new feeling in the air: hope. The future wasn't certain, but it was no longer as bleak as it had once seemed. Commander David Rhodes stood at the helm, his mind reflecting on everything that had happened. The Titanus had proven itself, its power, its resilience, and its ability to survive. But it had also shown humanity's heart, the deep desire to find peace, to connect with others, and to learn. He had been worried that Earth would be seen as a threat forever, but now there was a chance for something new. The galaxy wasn't just watching Earth out of fear anymore. They were watching with curiosity. "Commander," Lieutenant Vera's voice brought him back to the present. "We've just received a message from the Zanari. They've officially invited us to join the Galactic Council." Rhodes blinked, surprised by the news. The Zanari had been the first to reach out to humanity, offering a chance at peace. He knew the invitation was a huge step, a turning point that could reshape everything for Earth. The galaxy wasn't just afraid of humanity's power anymore. They were beginning to see them as equals, as potential allies. "Set up the communication," Rhodes said, his voice steady. The screen flickered to life, and soon, the Zanari representative appeared on the view screen. His calm expression held no hint of the tension that had surrounded their first meeting. "Commander Rhodes," the Zanari representative spoke, "the galaxy has watched you and your people closely. Your strength is undeniable, but it is your willingness to learn and grow that has truly earned our respect. The invitation to join the Galactic Council is an opportunity for humanity to help shape the future of the galaxy. You are no longer outsiders." Rhodes took a deep breath. "We accept your invitation," he said, his voice firm. "We will do everything we can to earn our place and prove that humanity's strength is matched by its heart." The Zanari nodded. "We look forward to working with you, Commander. Together, We can build a future of peace and understanding." As the communication ended, Rhodes turned to the crew. The invitation wasn't just a formality. It was a chance to change everything. Humanity had proven it was capable of great things, but the real challenge now was living up to that potential. They had a place at the table with the galaxy's most powerful factions, and it was up to them to make it count. "We've come a long way," Rhodes said, his voice filled with pride. "But this is just the beginning. We're not here to dominate or destroy. We're here to learn, to grow, and to build something better. Let's make sure we do that." The crew nodded, their expressions filled with a quiet determination. They had fought hard to get here, but the real work was just beginning. They would continue their mission, not as conquerors, but as pioneers, humanity's first step into a galaxy full of unknowns. As the Titanus continued its journey, humanity's place in the galaxy had been changed forever. They had faced the darkness, and they had emerged not only unbroken but stronger than ever. Now, the stars were within their reach, and they had a future to build, one that would define them as a people, not by their weapons, but by their spirit. The Titanus sailed onward, carrying with it the hopes of Earth and the promise of a new chapter in the galaxy's history. The galaxy had changed forever, but so had humanity. And together, they would shape a new future, one of peace, strength, and endless possibility.